Okay, we're in Perek Lamed, chapter 30 of Sefer Shmuel Aleph. The background to the chapter, as we have been learning, by the grace of God, David has been freed from the greatest contradiction or conflict you can have in your life, going up against your own people. By the grace of God, the officers of the Plishtim army basically tell the king what to do. We don't want David here. Not in the back and not in the front. Not as a bodyguard and not up front. David's released. He goes back. Where does he go back to? The Negev city of Ziklag, what he had received. And what does he find? A big surprise. The city more or less was abandoned from maybe of men, we could say. The women and children are there apparently. And here they are, the Amaleki people. Okay, they're the ones that are doing damage. They invaded both the Negev cities and the city per se of Ziklag, as we learned. And they just basically destroyed the town and burnt it down. That's what we saw. How does David react? How does someone so mighty, so great, with another ordeal? I mean, just 3 days ago, he was in a big conflict. Will he have to show up on the battlefield against his own people or not? What pressure. Very difficult situation. So let's see how David reacts. After all the obvious crying of David and his people, of the city being built and the women and children taken into captivity, after all the crying, what does David do? Let's read. Pasuk Vav, let's read from verse 6. Vateitzer li David me'od. Now, if he doesn't have enough problems with the Plishtim, and now with his family and others taken into captivity, he's now getting peer pressure. What are his supporters saying? Your fault. You're the one responsible. Ki amru ha'am, right? The people with him, what are they suggesting? Let's sakalo. They say, let's stone him. Let's kill this guy. Why? Because he did the biggest tactical mistake. What did he do? He left the city unguarded, apparently. Okay? Ki amru am lesokalo, ki marra nefesh kol ha'am. Now, the people that are with him, how do we describe them? Remember how they started? All the dropouts of society, all the embittered people of society, all the people that in society that's not going for them, they join David, just like David is, the king is after to kill him. So who joins him? All the low-life, rejected people. So these are the embittered people, and they're saying, we're willing to kill David. For what? Ish al banav al benotav. Vayitchazek David b'Hashem Elokav. There's a time that you can bend. There's a time you can break. You can say, God, what do you want from me? What are you giving me all these delays and difficulties? Why? Why are you doing this to me? So instead of David weakening his faith and his security, David finds the way. Vayitchazek David b'Hashem Elokav. Clearly, David sees that this is also from Hashem. Hashem is behind everything, and Hashem wants it for my good. So right now, he wants me to try it harder. Now the question is, after David strengthens himself in Hashem, what strategy do? Where do you go? Where do you look for them? We know that Amalek are like a scattered people. They're not living in one place or the other place. Now, he doesn't have military intelligence. He doesn't have closed-circuit television cameras. What do? You go to God. You go to Hashem. Look how David goes to Hashem. Pasuk Zayin, verse 7. Vayomer David el Evyatar Kohen ben Achimelech Hagishan Ali ha'ifod. He asks the Kohen who has the ephod, the Urim V'Tumim there, and David senses this is important enough for like a national question, because David knows that he's to be the king of Israel, and it's obvious, vital that he find his wives and kids, as well as the other wives. So Evyatar has no problem with this. Vayagesh Evyatar te'efod al David, and right now the ephod is in front of David, and he's bringing his question. Let's notice what question does David ask. Pasuk Chet, verse 8 of chapter 30. Vayishal David ba'Hashem limor. The following question he has: Erdof acharei hagedud hazeh. The question A. Ha'asigenu. Okay. David has two questions basically here to ask. Or shall we say it's really one question? There's no doubt David says, I'm in pursuit of the Amalekins. The question is, will I be able to catch them? Will I be able to catch them if I do my conventional running after them? Okay? Ha'asiyenu? Will I be able to catch them? What is the response he gets? Apparently the letters light up and he's able to unscramble it. Vayomer. By the way, the Gdud, is like a battalion. It's like a big company of soldiers. Vayomer lo. The answer, the response from Hashem through the Urim V'Tumim is Redof. Number one, pursue. That's the right thing to do. Number two, Ki haseg tasig. Yes, in your pursuit, you'll be able to what? You'll be able to catch up with them. The question is, when you catch up with them, will you be successful in meeting the Amalekin combat units?
The question regarding the usage of the Urim V'Tumim. So we read before, I think it was the Sefer as well, when they also asked should we go out and fight Binyamin with the Bilagish Brigida? And it seems that whenever they took out the Urim V'Tumim, it's like a question of national matter, like a very
no doubt
huge thing. And now, David is king, but he's still not really.
You're absolutely right that he has not begun reigning as king. But he represents Am Yisrael. Was in Galut. He's in Galut. It's like a kingdom in Galut.
So this is a legit thing.
So therefore it's absolutely credible. It's fine because he is a national figure. He's not a dam prati. You're absolutely right. It's an excellent question. So the answer here is number one, Redof. Number two, Hasek Tasig, you will catch up with them. And after you catch up with them, you know what's going to happen? What are you going to do? Vegam Tatzil. You'll be able to save everyone. Where are you? We just read the answer over here. Atzel Tatzil. Okay, keep your finger there. So David gets an answer, and I'm sure he must be spirited. Pasuk Tet, Vayelech David. He's in action. Who's with him? V'sheish mot ish asher ito. I forgot to bring the map. Chaval. Further south is a famous Nachal called Nachal HaBesor. We know where it is today. We have the Nachal. It goes from the eastern Negev to the western Negev. So there's a riverbed there. When there is a little rain in the heights of the Negev, so the waters trickle down into this Nachal. And this is already a distance. This is already a stop-off. They're making like a pit stop here. Vanotarim amadu. Of the 600 people, we're going to learn that 200 have no more strength to carry on. Okay? Remember, when they arrived from, which town was it, did we see? They were in Afek. They just traveled, 2 days of traveling. They arrived in Ziklag, they must be tired. Now, they're Giborim still, yet right now, 200 of them, 1/3 of them has no more koach. Okay? Has no more koach, it seems. Vayamdu, let's read it. Vayarduf David hu varba meotish. The 400 can pursue, they can keep on going. Vayamdu matayimish, 200 stand, they have no more strength. Asher pigru, they have no more abilities to go forward. Okay, they're weakened, that's what it means. Mi'avor nachal besor. This area, it's not because it's a hard nachal to cross. It's not an active riverbed usually. Okay, and it's not the width of one of the big rivers in Europe. But right now, I think the distance has paid a price on people. You're traveling, 60, 80, 90 kilometers. It's very hard. And now, with the grace of Hashem, I'm adding Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayimtzeu ish Mitzri basada. ויקחו אותו אל דוד, ויתנו לו לחם ויאכל, וישקו מים. Furthermore, ויתנו לו פלח דבלה, ושני צימוקים ויאכל, ותשב רוחו אליו. כי לא אכל לחם, ולא שתה מים 3 ימים, ו3 לילות. Gentlemen, וימצאו, it says, ish Mitzri. What it means is there is a person, an Egyptian man who is abandoned, left, as the Targum says, Vashkachu. He was left there. Who left him? The Amalekim. Because he is as we're going to read in 13 in a moment, he's going to write that he's an Eved for the Amaleki people. So it's interesting. Already, David finds a piece of evidence. A servant of the Amalekins, who happens to be a Mitzri man. And here the Tanakh tells us about the love, the mercy that David has during a time of war for this person. And apparently this person is zonked out. He has no koch whatsoever. They give him some food, some water to drink. And then after the initial time, they apparently find out that this guy hasn't eaten 3 full days and nights. So you just can't stuff him, with stuffed chicken and stuffed kroit and cabbage and all this. Just give him a little food, little bread and water. And then maybe after a little rest, you can give him something sweet like some pieces of dates, 2 eshkolot, 2 shall we say measures of dry raisins, dry grapes, clusters of grapes. And this sweet stuff helps him regain his power, his spirit. And we learn here how terrible the Amalekin people. They abandoned one of their servants. He's dying there somewhere in the Negev without food, without drink, 3 days and 3 nights. And we see what kind of people, the Jewish people, in this case, David, how his attitude of mercy amidst the war. You might have thought, why is the Tanakh telling me this? When you're out in war and you're looking and you're desperate and you're searching for your wives and your kids and the others as well, you usually have a one-way mind. It's very hard to dedicate thought and energy and mercy on behalf of others. Even in spite of the fact you might say, this guy could be evidence to give him testimony, fine, beseder. But the Tanakh bothers to tell us the more human side, right, of David showing mercy to this non-Jew. And now, the interrogation, verse 13, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Vayomer lo David, Lemi ata? Who do you belong to? Are you a member of someone? Ve'emi ze'ata? Where are you from? The response, Vayomer, Nar Mitzri Anochi. I'm a young Egyptian boy. Eved lish Amaleki. I was one of the servants of one of the VIPs, an Ish Amaleki. He doesn't say just Amaleki, but an Ish Amaleki. And you know what? Vayazveni Aduni. My master abandoned me. Why? Ki chaliti. I became sick. And you know what he did? He left me here. Hayom shlosha, 3 days. Okay? So here we see the sharp contrast, do we not? The sharp contrast about the Talmud says, if sometimes you have criticism about the Jewish people, the Talmud says, leave them alone. Don't criticize them. Hanachlem. Im einam neviim b'nei neviim. If they're not prophets, they're sons of prophets. And then the Talmud says there are 3 qualitative attributes that the Jewish people have. You can find in almost every Jew. Rachmanim, Baishanim, V'gomlei Chasadim. They bestow kindness. It's in their nature. Sometimes too much. Sometimes, but it's an innate attribute. And here you see Amaleki from Esav. They had a sick servant on their hands. Let's just leave him. We'll die out here probably in the desert. So you see the subhuman treatment that the Amalekim are giving. They just throw someone to the dogs here. You're not worth anything, stay here. You're sick, you're not a good servant, you can't do anything, stay here. And then he tells the following information. Pasuk Yudalid. And here, David will now have, let me ask you something. I'm not sure or certain that David knows now for certain that it was Amalek that raided the area. Why am I saying that? Machon, at the beginning of the chapter, Pasuk Aleph, we're told, from a narrative point of view though, we're told from a narrative point of view that the Amalekim raided the Negev and the Ziklag, smote the town and burnt it. But is there evidence in the town that this is what they did, that it's from Amalek? David doesn't know for sure. And now maybe in Pasuk Yudalid, we're hearing a confirmation, okay? An ishur of what David thought. Pasuk Yudalid, let's read it. The words of the Egyptian servant. Anachnu pashatnu. We raided the towns. Number one, Negev Akreti. That's a strip, an area of the Negev called Negev Akreti. It's south of the Plishtim area, Rashi says. And in the book of Amos, is it? No, Tzvanya. We see the term Negev Akriti relating to an area south of the Plishtim. So there, he says, we, the Amalekim, we raided the Negev Akriti, number one. Valasher liyudah, the areas of the Judean area. Plus, Val Negev Kalev. Why is the area called Negev Kalev? Because it's from Judah, and apparently Kalev received the town in this area. And then he says, bingo, ve'et Ziklag, sarafnu va'esh. So right now, it's clearly confirmed to David that the Amalekim were indeed the ones that raided. And now David has evidence. Now he has to search. Where are they? Pasuk Teva, verse 15. Vayomer elav David. Hatoriteni ala gedudazeh. Is David saying something or asking a question? Hatoriteni. See the hay? Hay is hayim.
Yes.
Do you see that hay?
Oh, that's very
Hey, the hey question. Hayim Torideni, can you take me down to this troop, to this battalion, where they are? Can you tell me the area? Question one. Vayomer, and I'm going to ask all of you, the response of this Egyptian boy. Hishavali be'Elohim. If you do swear in your God, to me, imtimiteni, that you won't kill me. But not only will you not kill me, I don't want you to do what? To extradite me and send me to them, to my master. Okay? If you promise me, swear to me on these two things, then I will what? Then I will show you where they are. So the obvious question we should ask here, gentlemen, is why is it that the servant is asking, don't even extradite me? Number one, don't make sure, I don't want you to kill me. Number two, why not extradite me, send me down? What is he afraid of? What does David and his 400 people in the army have in their hands right now? They have a so-called POW, a prisoner of war. What can a prisoner of war be used? To negotiate, right? It could be that this Mitri boy is suspicious that David will use him for what we call an exchange of prisoners. David's wives and kids are there, and so too are others. So right now, I don't want to be used as a what? As a piece of commercial matter and be used as an exchange of prisoners. Now let me ask you, why not? Why not? Why doesn't he want it? Huh? Question number one. Why not? I think it's obvious. The Amalekans are terrible people. They just left him alone in the desert for 3 days with no food and no water. Well, I don't want to go to cruel people like this. I don't want to be a cruel person. I don't want to go to cruel owners like this. You follow the line of thinking. Why he doesn't want to do this? So, but he does agree that if you do swear to me, and apparently trust of it, of course, that he will show them. Now, let me ask you, it's not only cruelty that he doesn't want to do this. It could very well be that what could the Amalekans do to this prisoner? They could kill him. What did they do to the city of Ziklag? They burned it down. They destroyed everything. They're really cruel people, these Amalekans. It's interesting. We're learning about Amalek in this chapter, and right now the Shabbat Zachor, about the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. Look how Kadosh Baruch Hu planned out our study plan here over the course of the year. I mean, you couldn't get a better planning. You agree with me, don't you? Pasuk Tet Zayin, it happens very many times you see this. Pasuk Tet Zayin, verse 16, Vayorideu. The prisoner takes David and his troops down to the city where they are. V'ine, surprise. What do you find in their situation, their military situation? Number one, Nitushim al pnei chol haaretz. They're not standing as a united army, collected together. They're spread around. They're all scattered around. They're not like a gedud. They're not like a battalion that's facing an army or waiting for revenge and they're ready for these matters. No. There's even no guards there. Number two, ochlim v'shotim v'chogegim. You hear that? They're eating and drinking. They're so happy. They're celebrating. With what? B'chol hashalal gadol. They took a lot of booty. Asher lakhu, number one, me'eretz plishtim u'me'eretz Yehuda. Both from the Judean and the Plishtim cities like Ziklag here, they took for their needs a lot of things. Now David sees this. What is the strategy of David? He sees two things, gentlemen, here, that, as the Malbim explains, there are two signs here that if you take now a surprise attack, let's say during nighttime hours, you're almost assured that you're going to win. Why? They're eating and drinking. And number two, they're not united together as an army or as a battalion to defend themselves. So that's what we're going to see here. David waits for nighttime. Pasuk, Yud Zayin, very subtle, very subtle. Vayakem David me'aneshef v'yad ha'erev lemochorotam. David smites them from the beginning of the night, me'aneshef, or maybe from the end of the night, before the morning, v'yad ha'erev lemochorotam, an entire day war, from like right before dawn until the day after, until the evening after, and so on. In other words, it's not a 1 hour war. It's not a 5 hour war either. We're talking about 12 or more hours. So here from the end of the nighttime, okay, that's what Neshef means. We see that in Tehillim as well. The Gemara Masechah Brachot brings it on page 3. So here we have, there's even an opinion, Rabbi Yoshua in the Gemara, or the Psikta rather, that to explain this Pasuk in Yud Zayin, it was actually 2 nights and 1 day. Now, does David have mercy here on the Amalekans? Does he save people's lives, the Amalekans? No. Vayakem, he smites them. We don't see like Shaul who had mercy on Amalek and let the king alive here. He smites them. And here it says, Lo nimlat me'emish. No one escaped. They were all dead. They were all killed. Ki im 400 ishnar asher rachvu al hagmalim vayinusu. But we do see 400 youngsters of Amalekans, apparently. They were able to get on their donkeys and flee from the area. The result of the war, Pasuk Yud Chet, Vayatzel David et kol asher lakhu Amalek v'shtei nashav hitzil David. What is the Tanakh telling us here in verse 18? Huh? After seeing David's great stamina and stubbornness to finish the job, unlike King Shaul, by the way, to do nighttime fighting is very hard. There's a midrash that says the following, David writes the Tehillim, you may know at 27, Hashem Ori V'Yish'i. God is my light and my salvation. Do you remember when we have the minhag to recite this psalm? This is during the month of Elul until Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah. Okay? Tehillim 27. The Midrash rhetorically asks, Matay amar David pasuk zeh? When did he recite this pasuk that God is my light and He's my salvation? And the Midrash answers, Bigdud Amalek. When he's fighting against the battalion of Amalek, he said, God is my light and my salvation. Now, some of you know, today, in our modern day technology, on the telescope of our guns, we have what's called night vision. Okay? You look on your telescope and you can see as if it's daylight outside, even though it's nighttime. Night vision telescopes. David had night vision telescope. What? The Midrash answers, Lefisha asa'ima milchama balayla. Since he went to war against Amalek at nighttime, Veharagam, and he killed them, Shenemar, and the Tanakh, and the Midrash brings the pasuk that we just read now, verse 30, Vayakem David me'aneshe ve'ad erev lemochoratam. And according to Rav Kahana in the Psikta, Rabbi Yeshua in the Psikta, it was 2 nights. So most of the fighting, 2 nights in 1 day. So the Midrash asks, Umi haya me'ir lehem? Where is he getting light to fight at night? And the Midrash answers, Zikim ubrakim. He's getting flashes of light. He's getting barak in the sky, lightning and other flashes of light. Wow. So David, in a praise to Hashem, David says, Hashem, Ori v'Yeshi. You're my light and you're my salvation. And now I want to ask you a question. What do you remember about when you go to war against Amalek? They have some warehouses of underwear and undershirts. They have lovely blue shirts and lovely. What is the pasuk telling us? Ki machot timche et properties, assets, anything that has the name of Amalek on them. The Torah says, Machot timche zecher Amalek. That's what we're going to be reading this Shabbos, Parshat Zachor, right? If that is the case, how does it say here in pasuk 18? Vayatzel David et kol asher lakhu Amalek v'shtei nashav itzil David. David is rescuing whatever Amalek took. Whatever Amalek took. Huh? Is he allowed to take that stuff?
It's his own stuff. It didn't belong to Amalek.
So you're saying what the Tanakh here is telling us, he's just taking back booty, spoil, properties that what Amalek stole when they raided the sin of Ziklag. So here, there's no violation whatsoever. So that's a good answer. I have another question to ask you. His wives were under Amalekian control. What do you think happened to his wives when they're under as prisoners of war by the Amalekans? What probably happened to them?
They might be violated.
They were violated. They're probably raped. So my question to you is, married women that are raped, Isha shene'ensa, is she permitted or not permitted to her husband?
Of course she's permitted. Except if he's a Kohen.
Excellent. That's what the Gemara says in Masechet Ketubot. The Gemara says in Masechet Ketubot, if she's an Eshet Ish to a Kohen, and because of the holiness of a Kohen, then she is not allowed to continue her marriage to the Kohen after she's freed, after she was raped. But if to a non-Kohen, then an Eshet Ish that was raped is allowed to go back. In our case, David is or not, is not a Kohen. So that would answer the question here regarding the ability for David to bring back his wife. So, although the Tanakh here doesn't deal that they were raped or not, but time is urgent for him. To what extent is the success of David? Let's see here in verse 19 right now. Look what David does. Everyone was found, youngsters and older kids, okay, including boys and girls, umishalal, and all spoil. Whatever the Amalekins took, hakol eshiv David. What does it mean, eshiv David? He took it and he distributed the properties of the people living in Ziklag, the unguarded city when David was out in a movement to go to war against Israel, God forbid, and the city's raided and everything's taken. David doesn't take it for himself. David is not only a trustworthy person, but he's benevolent. He wants to make sure that property goes back to its rightful owners. So what is he returning? He's returning both bodies and possession. Okay? Bodies and possessions. Banim banot and shalal. He's giving back everything. Okay? Pasuk Kaf, verse 20. Vaikach David et kol hatzon v'abakar nagu lifnei hamikneh hayu vayamru ze shalal David. Other things, it could be, it's not clear what he's taking right here now. Okay. So I saw an answer by the Malbim, just like you said before, that he can't take Amalekian property. But here, this could be property from other cities that they raided. Could be from Judean cities and other cities. So he found other matters by Amalek that they could be the spoil of wars, like the Kreti that we mentioned before, the Yehuda, and so on and so forth. And the Malbim says apparently the owners of the said properties had given up hope. Okay? They've given up hope of reattaining it. So as some of you may know, in order to make a kinyan of lost property, if the owners are despaired, Yeush, then the one that picks it up can really acquire it. So that's what's happening to David here. So he calls it, he gives it a name, Shlal David. Okay? Now, Shlal David could even mean it belongs to the kingdom of David. And David is maybe even acting like a king here. Because let's see what he does now with his properties. Pasuk Kaf Aleph, Vayavod David el Matayim Hanashim. He goes back to Nachal Besor. Right, that was a pit stop. After traveling, who knows, 100 kilometers, or 200 of his people had no more koach to pass Nachal Besor in pursuit of Amalek. So now he goes back to them. They're hanging out there. Apparently, he was given an order not to move. Let's read it again. Pasuk 21, Kaf Aleph. Vayavo David el Matayim Anashim asher pigru. Those that were weakened. Mi lechet achrei David, of going back with Bit David. And what does he give them? Vayeshivum benachal besor. He's meeting up with them there, and he's returning to that place. And apparently, they see him at a distance. Vayitzu lekrat David. They're giving him honor. They go out to meet him. Kabbalat panim. Isn't it great to meet up with the soldiers that went to war, that were successful with the help of God, and say thank you so much. Shakoach, great. How are you? They're going out towards David and the other soldiers with David. What does David do? Vayigash David el etam. Etam means el ha'am. And here it is, the humility of David. He doesn't wait and sit on the chariot for them to come to him. He approaches and gets closer to them. Vayishalem l'shalom. Okay? What's the chidush? That he's saying, okay, how are you guys? Shalom Aleichem. Well, what's the chidush? Maybe there was room for disappointment. Maybe there's room for regular people might get angered. Why didn't you run with us? Why did you hang out here? Where you could have found the car. No, that was not making accounts. Why didn't you come? Next time, be faster. No, he doesn't say any critical comments. But what do they say? Pasuk Bet Vayan Kol Ish Ra. Remember, the teams of people that met with David are the low life people that didn't make it in life, people that were subjected, people that were frowning upon all types of things. That's what they found in common with David. That David had a tough life. So some of these people, Ishra uBilial, Menachem Shalchuim David, these people that are low lives, Vayomru Yana Shaloh Chuimi. Now these are people that were with David. The people that were of the 400. What do they say? Because they didn't go with me, meaning with us. Lo nitein lehem me'ashalal asher hitzalnu. You heard? They're already talking about how to divide the spoil and booty. Who should receive and who should not receive. So the people that were with David that risked their lives, that went out to war, they're saying, you know what? These 200 guys, they don't deserve anything. Efes. Why? Because they didn't go with us. Okay? Lo nitein lehem me'ashalal asher hitzalnu. Only who? Kim ish et ishto vet banav v'inagu v'yelechu. Okay? We're going to give it only to those that went with us. Okay? So here, interesting people, David, apparently, David's intention is what? Why are they saying this? They purely understand that David's intention is to allocate or distribute these goods also to everyone. Anyone that, joined the David even didn't come out to the war in the end. But here David speaks out of unity, out of love. Pasuk Kav Gimel, he discounts their idea. Vayomer David in 23, Lo tasu chen echai. My brothers, this is not the proper thing to do. Why? Et asher natan Hashem lanu, vayishmor otanu, vayitein et hagdud haba aleinu biyadeinu. What is David saying here? David speaking here out of love. He's telling now some rationale. We didn't win the war because of our strength. We didn't win the war only because of us that came out to go to war. Rather, this war is a what? Asher natan Hashem lanu. You see the words? This victory in war is the gift of Hashem. Now, what is the next rational stage of understanding? If this is the gift of Hashem, it's the gift of Hashem to all of us. The 400 that went to war and the 200 stayed behind. God gave us a gift. And therefore, when we're acquiring the spoil, the booty here in the war, it should be divided in a portion to everyone. Okay? So, you see here the musar, the ethics, the values of David. And now, a very famous pasuk, and I'll tell you where we see it. Pasuk of Dalet 24. Umi yishma lachem. God forbid we shouldn't listen to you guys. Ladavar hazeh. And what you're supporting is that we shouldn't give them goods for those that didn't join the war in the end. That's in opposition to the tzedek, to what should really be right in our world. Why? Ki kechelek hayored b'milchama ukechelek hayoshev al hakilim yachdav yach loko. This statement, read it again, gentlemen. The ones that go down to war and the ones that don't go out to war, but they watch over the kelim. Okay? These 200 people, the Malbim explained that when they stayed tight in Nachal Besor and didn't go any further south, David and his 400 soldiers gave them some of their knapsacks, gave them some of their kelim. You stay here, stay tight, and watch our stuff. David declares against these wicked people, no. Those that go down to war and those that are back in the rear and not going to war should what? All get a portion. I won't forget when I used to do reserve duty, and often I would be driving a Jeep, a driver in reserve duty, and every week, because of the Intifada, these Jeeps have a lot of armory on it, tons of weight. There's much more wear and tear on the parts of the Jeep. And once a week, believe it or not, it will be a Yom Tipul. It will be a day of treatment for the Jeep, which is a few hours. In other words, if you're appointed to take the jeep down to the garage, the masach, the garage, right? Is that the word? The garage of the army. So you spend a few hours there, and you wait until they check all the tires, they check the engine, they check the oil, the water, they check the spark plug, everything is checked. Because you're going out to action, you're driving in areas where there are Arab terrorists and so on and so forth. So I will never forget this. In the Machane Beitel, in the army camp of Beitel, which is 2 kilometers from our home, you have this garage, this tall structure, and you have these letters that are gigantic. We call it in Hebrew Kiddush Levana letters. It's like you can see it in the middle of the night. Gigantic. Like what letters? This pasuk. Kechelek hayored b'milchama, or kechelek hayoshev el hakelim. The garage people, they're fixing jeeps. They're maintaining jeeps. They're not going out to war fighting. But you know what? We need them. And they deserve what? They deserve a portion like everyone else. So I won't forget this matter here. So we learn here something very, very important about David, his hot pursuit after Amalek. David is successful with the grace of Hashem to get to the place through the POW that they find, the Egyptian man, the Egyptian servant being a servant of Amalek. He's able to win over a war. He raids the city wherever they are, kills everyone, rescues the captives, and now he goes to divide the war out. It reminds us. Rabbi Ariel, the Rav, one of the great Tanakh teachers in Tanakh, says this reminds us maybe of a similar affair. Do you remember in the Chumash? Where does David get this koach to run and pursue after war? What did Avram do?
He went after the 5 kings.
Excellent.
4 kings.
Right? In the war of the 4 against the 5 kings, when the 4 kings won over the 5 and took into captivity Lot, the nephew of Avram Avinu, maybe from that event, Am Yisrael, in their soul, in their deep souls, for all generations, we find the force, the power to go to war even against the odds. And in this case, go into the fields of Amalek, capture them, and save who has to be saved. So this is something very yesodi that's in the ability of David HaMelech and Am Yisrael. We'll continue this matter, B'ezrat Hashem, in our next time.